I'd like to introduce our Attorney General, Tom Miller.
Mike is right, you are great. When I was driving up here, I thought about how many times I've come up to the supper, the soup supper, and how many great events you've had. And one of them flashed back to me, and it was 11 years ago, and it was the start of the caucus season, leading up to 2008. And I was up, talking for Barack Obama. Christy Vilsack, I remember was there for Tom. Joe Biden was speaking, and it was a great dinner, and it was a great crowd. But as great as that crowd was, I think the crowd tonight is bigger. I think what you're showing tonight is energy, participation, and numbers that if you carry it through November can give us a great victory. And we need a great victory. Think about it. Our state is slipping to the Republican side. It has over the last 5 or 6 years. You could see it in the statewide races in particular, in the presidential race. And we've got to bring that back. Also, you could see, as Mike talked about, how right-wing policies and priorities and taxation have come through the state as well. We have a chance this year. There could, hopefully will be, a trend towards Democrats as a result of the awful and crazy things that are done in Washington by the Republicans, but by President Trump in particular. So our back is to the wall, but we've got a chance. We've got an opportunity to bring us back and bring the state back, even more importantly. And all of these races are important, including, of course, the Attorney General's race. But there's one that's more important than all the others, and that's the governor's race. The governor is the leader of the state, the leader of state government, the head of the executive branch of government, which has just immense power. We have to win the governor's race. And we've got terrific candidates. We've got a lot of terrific candidates, as a matter of fact. And I want to ask you what Mike asked you. To pick one candidate and support him or her as much as you want and as much as you can in the primary. And then when it's over, we all get behind whoever the nominee is for the reasons that the future of the state and the future of the Democratic Party depends upon it. I filed my papers, or Eric Tabor, who does so much for me, filed my papers yesterday to run for Attorney General again. And I would add that we had over 3,000 signatures, needed 1,000, and we had great participation from all the counties. But Story County had the second most signatures for me. And last time I looked, you weren't the second largest county. That again was an indicator of the activity and the participation in this county that is so good. You have obviously the best, or one of the best Democratic parties, county parties in the state. And Mike and I and everybody that runs on the state ballot really appreciates that. Let me just take a minute or two to talk about why I'm running again. I think that we're doing some of the best things in the AG's office that we've ever done. We have certainly one of the best staffs that we've ever had. And we have unfinished business. And that's why I'm running. I want to talk about one item on the unfinished business agenda. And that's the scourge called opioids, opioid addiction. It should never have happened in America, but it did. And here's how it basically happened. There's a company called Purdue Pharma, and they are the leading seller of opioids. And in 1996, they made a decision, a very ambitious decision, and that is that they were going to change the way the American medical profession and American patients looked at and consumed opioids. In 1996, we had it right. And that was that opioids were used as a pain pill of the very last resort. And it was given with fear and respect for the potential addictive nature of the product. Well, in 6 years, working in various ways, miraculously, miraculously, they had changed all of that. We got to, in 2002, a situation where opioids were one of many possibilities for pain. The fear and concern about addiction was gone. One of their third parties that they funded came up with the idea that Americans should be free of pain. And the sales for Purdue Pharma for opioids went from 45 million in 1996 to 1.5 billion 6 years later in 2002. More than 44 times as much. So, we're investigating them as we should be. The state AGs have a great history of multi-state investigations, and we are certainly on them. We have other partners, including now the federal government. But also, we're talking to doctors and patients and people to get back to where we were. You have situations where people have oral surgery, and they're given a 30-day supply of opioids. You have situations where there are fractures, significant but not overwhelming, and they're given 30 days supply. You can get addicted to opioids after 7 days, even after 5 days. And people don't know that, and they aren't told that. So what we need to do, and it's starting, it's moving, particularly in the medical profession, the College of Dentistry and the University of Iowa, maybe I shouldn't say that word, but they have gotten it right from the beginning. So I would just ask you, as you're a patient, as your friends are patients and your family members, be really careful about opioids. Be exceptionally careful for acute pain to take them for more than 7 days. Take them for as little as possible. I had a friend that was out on a great trip. She and her husband saw the eclipse out at Jackson Hole and then went up to Montana for a dude ranch. She had a really bad fall. Her horse fell a fairly considerable distance, and she broke her ribs. They gave her a prescription for 30 days. She took herself off after 2 days. That's the kind of thinking we need to do, and we need to continue, and I will continue to challenge the medical profession to get this right, because so much is at stake. It is so easy to get addicted to opioids, and it's so easy to move from opioids to heroin, which is almost lipo-minded substitute, and it's so easy to get from those addictions to death. So that's part of our unfinished business, and we're working hard on that. We have our beliefs, and we kept those beliefs for a long time. And we have ups and downs in the political process and success and failures. But continuing to do what you're doing as Democrats, fighting for the things that you fight for, and electing Democrats in this county, building margins for statewide candidates, it's really, really important. It's been driven home to all of us because of what has happened in Washington. The President, the House, and the Senate. They have moved this country in such a wrong direction. The President has conducted himself in such a way that we should never, never have a president doing what he does and teaching Americans and kids essentially to do the wrong things in many ways. When I was at a Democratic AG's meeting in September of 16, just a couple months before the election, we had a speaker who was terrific, and I asked him, he talked about Obama and talked about things that went on, and I asked him about Obama's legacy. He gave a great answer, and part of that answer I hadn't quite thought of before, but it was so right, and it's so missing today. And he said that President Obama gave this country such incredible moral and intellectual leadership. How much that is missing today, and how little Republicans in Congress stand up to President Trump, even when he's just totally wrong and everybody knows it. So they have to bear responsibility for that. There has to be change, and that change has to come in 18 and 20. So do all you can to change Iowa, to change America, because there's so much at stake. And you've helped me so many times. I've got to be Attorney General quite a few times now, and I love the job because of the ability willing to use the law to serve the interest of ordinary Iowans. And I wouldn't have that job at all, much less all these times, if it wasn't for people like you in this room. And I want to thank you very much for giving me that chance. Thank you.